Hi everyone, welcome to our sewing ritual for today. Episode 6 of Gestating Narratives. And so we've got a new lens. Last time our camera fell and our lens broke, so we got a new macro lens, so hopefully that'll give us some interesting perspectives of the macro, but actually of the micro, of all of the micro patterns and textures of our stitches. And so as we enter into our ritual, we want to welcome in all of our healed ancestors as guides as we reweave the fabric of these garments, as all the narratives that make up our beings and our bodies and our environments and our existence gestate, and so that they emerge and regenerate with the tenderness of our maintenance of our reflections and thoughts. And so standing on this land, standing on whatever land you're standing on, with the sky above and the sea that surrounds, we call on the elements of fire, water, earth, and sky, and also Akasha and the dream realm. And as we enter into this plane, may we be guided by this. So thank you for being here. Thank all of our ancestors, everything that we're made up of, for being here. And so this is what we're going to be working on. I'm going to release a little bit of this microphone so I have a little bit more space to move around, because the microphone's on a cord, and if there's a lot of background noise for you, maybe you could turn the volume down and it won't do that. And wow, so here's what's happening so far. Okay. We have our scallops. Okay, so something that I just want to say. In this space is that, in this realm, is that all of our reflections can be taken as analogies and recontextualized into the space that you might be receiving them. So it is more than this present moment, but every present moment beyond time. That we can be we can hold space for through this. Okay? And wow. We're seeing what we've done so far, and now thinking about what's next. What is next? Okay. We have all these different back parts to think about how to join together. We have I think that part of the thing with draping on a live person is that it recognizes that kind of like this imperfection and symmetry, and that it's not really the goal to maintain the symmetry or to think about or to like adhere to any kind of space of what might be considered perfect. And what is perfect? I mean, for me, I would rather not adhere to any preconceived idea about what perfect might be, but at the same time, does even using the name perfect, even if I've redefined it to be more open to a fluid state, then why am I even using that word then? Why don't I use another word? Because in invoking words and communicating with other people, we can question how we define everything as we reflect on the language that we use. With ourselves and with each other as well. Okay. What's the next thing? Feeling into my body. There's this space in my back. There's a space in my back that I'm noticing, and it feels like a wide open space. And so maybe we'll go there. As I'm feeling that in my body, maybe we'll go there in the garment, and we'll focus there. It looks like we have just some safety pins here. We could like stitch up this line. I also have this sleeve that wants to join to these other sleeves. So perhaps I could stitch this onto here. And there's right here, there's in stitching these sleeves cuffs on top of each other. You see with this one, is it gonna focus? Okay, well, we see with this cuff, right? Maybe if I lift the camera up a little bit. Now is it focusing? Okay, well, in any case, we had cut the sleeve off right here, and there's some seam allowance hanging out. Can you see? Oh, here we go. All right. So we're going to undo these stitches so that we can remove this piece. Okay. And unclipping these stitches. We're still getting used to how our camera and our lens are working with us. And I was starting to feel kind of irritable, and today, and I'm remembering to come back into this present moment and into a space of ease, like recognizing that I have the power to tap into the love that surrounds me, and in this environment, all through my imagination. So just feeling into this space of like unconditional love and just like being held. And I think the ocean pulse is like the most comforting thing, knowing that it just keeps going. And so so we can hold that in our awareness as we create, this costume, this blanket of consciousness to wrap up in, to remember. And here in this space, can recognize the presence of our own bodies. I can recognize the presence of my own body, and if parts of my body could speak, what would they say? This feeling it's like this feeling that's lifting from like my hips and my stomach up throughout the rest of my torso, up throughout my whole body. But it kind of, it feels yellow. The color I'm imagining feels yellow, and as I say that, I look at this plant in my room. One of the leaves have turned yellow. My friend sent this plant to me in the mail, and I think that they're still getting used to their new home. And being here, sharing this space here, I feel this pulse, and I feel like going through all the seams and just finishing off all the seams that are appearing. And to do that, I'm wondering if I need any bias if I need to cut any other piece to create a bias, to create any kind of binding. And somebody outside just screamed. Maybe yes. Maybe that's a yes. I need to do that. I'm also just picking out these knots for where the buttons in the blue were connected. And yeah. Oh yeah, another thing, so there's a lot we could do. It reminds me of when I was standing out in my garden today, in the garden in the house that I live in, and I was thinking like, wow, there's so many different things that could be done. What do I do? And I started with one thing. And I did that. I think I might come back I might spend some time here with these weavings that we opened up last week to create more texture. And yeah, just looking at what's happening. I'm not exactly sure what we're gonna do, but we might bring in some of this hem to tie in another material. So we might spend some time today with our hand sewing. And our black thread. Okay. And yeah, I was just checking my phone messages because I picked up my phone and I want to be present here, but I'm bringing it up because there's all these dandelions growing in the yard and in the grass, and I'm taking out these safety pins. Safety pins. What is a safety pin, you ask? really see? Can you really see? Oh, that's the wrong way. Okay. Wondering what direction to move this. So that you can see what I'm doing. Here. Okay. There's a spot. Okay. So we cut little openings here in these stripes where there's a pocket. There's like this patch pocket stitched onto the shirt. And we cut these strips and we want to add some texture so that we can weave the other parts through. And I want to finish off this so that it doesn't unravel. Okay. Finishing off the slits and the stripes so that they do not unravel. And a slit and a stripe, what could that mean for your life? It could mean a jumbled, an opening in the jumble. It could mean an opening in the tumbleweeds. What does that mean? Something that's tumbling through being right or being wrong. Something that's tumbling through like really strict guidelines and where's there space to breathe, to move through this in a way that is heartfelt and true to one's processes, natural processes. How can one find an opening to emerge from that? And there's kind of this feeling of the waters, these like cleansing waters, the oceanic waters coming through, breaking through the slit. Here there was actually space to do that because there was that's how it started, was that there's double layers. There's the pocket layer, and there's the layer of the shirt underneath. And sitting here and resting in this like grace and love for myself, and it feels like ease. It feels like the breath of ease, and feels like being really gentle. And also like being okay with being gentle. And I think that having different qualities, different modes is essential, and I also think that they can work together. Referring to like gentleness and tenderness, but also referring to like kind of like a branch falling, or some sort of clearing. Like, did these different qualities of our experiences, whether we're in ways of engaging and stuff, so we've wrapped around one time, and now I think we can go back. See, we've just done a whip stitch around the edges here on both sides, and I think now we can go back around with a double thread and we're gonna do a blanket stitch. Om bari om bari om bari om bari om bari om bari Yeah. Sometimes I feel like communicating can be so like self-explanatory. Like I could communicate all day long to somebody and they would still only hear what they want to hear, and and I think I have to be okay with that, and I think that that's something that I love about nonverbal communication, because it's all about those kind of subtleties and like people have agency in how they want to express themselves and how they see each other as well. And so it's not as defined, but it's still communicating something. And so putting words or putting a vocalization to this process feels like I feel kind of hesitant to do that sometimes, because I want you to exercise your own imagination and your own relationships with what you see and how you see. And I'm sure that you do that anyways. So perhaps it can be interesting to then open a conversation about that, about what we each see and how each of us see. And yeah, I'm starting to feel like a tension in my back, in my upper back, between my shoulder blades. Dum 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 dum. La, 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 la. Excuse me. Yeah, so we're cruising along. Check it out. We've gone this far. It's just really amazing what you can do with a needle and thread. It's really amazing how slow we can go. It's like the slowness, as I slow down, I want to keep slowing down. And then I notice that when I slow down, it does create a feeling that my whole environment is slowing down. But I also think that can create an an interesting counterbalance to then the things outside of my awareness and outside of my presence, because they can feel like they're speeding up, but I'm not exactly sure what they're speeding up for or where they're going in such a hurry, so that it almost makes me feel that like they're running in place, or that they're running in circles. I don't know. I mean, sometimes we do have to do things quickly. I was also thinking, like, how could I move quicker if I wanted to? And like moving through space quicker, and made me think like it kind of takes, it's like, it feels like the difference between water moving as water that's like dripping versus, you know, because a drip, like, it moves and it slides through it and goes through the channels that it can, unless it gets to a place of like where it pools or something. Whereas slowing down feels like taking the space to, I'm gonna drink some water. Taking the space to notice everything around me, and to notice how it is all connected. Because I could focus on how it's not connected and how it's perhaps irritating or toxic or disturbing, or I could focus on all these other things, but like I could also focus on like how it's connected. And when I do that, then it can feels like things kind of begin to make more sense, and then I don't necessarily see things in the same way, because it's not like the relativity expands, and it also becomes deeper, because instead of it just being relative to me and what I control, it's relative to everything that I've created a a connection within my awareness, and that can like continue to develop. And yeah, I think we all have the capacity to do that, and perhaps we're already doing that in so many ways, or perhaps it's something we could do more of if we find ourselves there, or find ourselves wanting to do that. And so we're going to knot off because we need more thread. Are we going to knot off, or are we just going to slide our thread through here? Okay. Getting our thread double thread. And we're going to slide the needle back through, going in further away to give us some slack for what we want to come through. And then as we come out, we can jump back into our blanket stitches, find a place to interlock. Yeah, my thumb is in a state of healing. we're working on it. Every day we're working on it. Okay, blanket stitching. What I said about entering in further away so that when we come out, it can be it's like almost like creating a root, only it's like starting at the root. Maybe more like a bulb or something, because when you plant a seed, it can then develop roots, and it like grows out from below and above at the same time. But here we started inside the stitches where we already had enclosed. So then how does that relate to some aspect of where you're at or where I'm at? If you're watching this, it could be a way to kind of, if you're working on something like tunnel through something you've already done, almost like, but it's still along the same stitch line, so sometimes we have to stop, anchor into a place where we've already been, go through and recollect where we've been, and then emerge, and then continue from there. That's what these stitches are showing me, at least. And kind of like reviewing, going back and reviewing, and I think there's a lot that I want to go back and review, that I need to go back and review before I take more steps forward. And yeah, there's always something new to absorb. It feels like I can enjoy the process as long as I'm listening to myself, and I'm present with myself along the way, and I'm present with the voice in my heart and how that is guiding me. The consciousness, the wise consciousness of the body. That's present. That's what's present in what guides us. I think it can give like the most direct response if we learn how to listen to ourselves. And for me, it feels like it's not like a logical linear language. It's like a more of a poetic space, and I want to speak from that space while in here, and I think that I can, as long as people recognize that's where I'm speaking from, but I can't control what people recognize or not, so maybe it's more about like what I'm open to in the moment. And sometimes it just feels like a protocol entering into that space. A protocol for a boundary, because behind that boundary can be like a lot of grievance and yeah. So if I want to hold space to process, I don't want to have to feel like I'm then wanting to escape that process. And in that, if that's the case, then is the capacity of the space really enough? It can be if one is willing to be open. But then, even then, there's layers to what we share. There's infinite layers. To what we share, what we don't share. So how can we get to like the is it a matter of getting to the deepest place? The deepest conscious place? And then, or subconscious? And then speaking from there? Is it a matter of speaking from the clearest space? Might not be the deepest, but it might be the clearest. Or do we have to go into those deep spaces to then clarify? Yeah. Not to sterilize, but to clarify. And then in that moment of recovering our humanity, well, then the siren goes off. We're coming back around the other side of this opening. And perhaps what is intended is what is inside the tending. And even as we tend, parts fall away. And we recognize what is true for ourselves throughout the process. And part of my grievance today was in how taboo it is to talk about our discomfort and our tension, and how that seems to be a big issue. Because if we can't speak from our truth, if we can't speak from our embodied self, if we can't even stand up for that, what are we doing? We're just neglecting that part that needs to be heard. It doesn't need to be right or wrong. I think it just needs to be heard. And so much conditioning happens where people feel like they need to talk in order to make a point, in order to have control, or to dominate. And there's also this aspect of being that needs to express in order to process, in order to reflect, in order to cultivate real relationships. And I know for myself, I didn't have very many examples of how really work through conflict and how to work through disagreement. And so to avoid that, I think, is to be passive, and to let that build up becomes passive aggressiveness. And I mean, I could sit here and say all of this, but what is it? How are we changing our actions? How are we learning how to have difficult conversations? How are we learning how to process? So I don't know if if me talking on YouTube about this is really doing anything, but I can reflect on things that come up with these materials if I recognize them as my ancestors. And so what are we talking about here? We're wrapping around the edge of this black stripe, going deep into that process. And as we come around, this stripe, I think we're gonna need to go back through and to get a new thread. To be obliterated, to be contextualized or recontextualized, to breathe in the space of unknown entity, to stream without the flying fire lit from below, feathers in the air, knuckles piercing the pins, revealing the spaces between what is materialized, held together with what is the dream, what is unseen, what remains unacknowledged in the space, the voice of our hearts, the voice of a starting point revealed in the weakness of mountains toppling over in our dreams, and the place of recovery is a morning, is the next morning, recognized as heaven, but not the dream where you're separated from the heathens, but the dream where the heathens are the last forgotten song that we didn't listen to, that we didn't notice, that is scared because never once did it feel like it landed, and never once did it feel the pleasure of being heard or being seen. it hid. And it didn't even, nobody even wanted to find it. They only wanted it to be hidden, even within each person of themselves. They didn't want to see it within themselves, for they could feel it in their nightmares, and they could feel it in the pains of their body, but they couldn't recognize it. They couldn't accept it as a part of themselves. And they, even when they did, they didn't know what to do. And so when the last mountain fell, collapsed, new valleys opened, and new waterfalls sprang forth, and the muck lay nestled at the bottom until it turned to stone, and it became our foundation to always remember to listen to the discomfort and to speak from a place that is fluid. And the mountains that rain, and the clouds that rain, and the rain that rains, that falls on the lashes, and the next moment of the token song plays, and what's lost is remembered. Standing on the ground of the temple, this temple that we've arrived to, becomes a space to learn, it has mushrooms and moss growing from the cracks. It's been here for a long time. And the rabbit showed us how to get here. We don't know how we'll make it back. For each step is a new motion. And each breath is not calculated, but it is recorded as each breath cleanses our mind How does our presence accept what it is? Does it remember what it was dreaming of? Does the momentum spark something that ignites the audacity of flight, and then to decide that was open-ended, nodding off before we saw the ending. Tightening at the corners. Looping behind. The balcony looks out. The sun peeking through the trees. Remembering where the balconies came from. Remembering a home in the hill dug out from the dirt. Remembering my piles of fibers and seeds. Remembering the creatures. How did I see them? How did they see me? How did we speak? How did we communicate? What was our dynamic? I don't know if it was even, if these questions will even lead us to where we were in a resonance, when we were in a relationship. But through the memories, they've been passed down, and just even to know that, in what realm is that here? Are we close? Are we close now? When we pay attention to each other, the creatures, and then, I need some water. And then reflecting on what we think versus what we know, and how do we know recognizing a feeling, a space of reconcile or redemption, or something that lingers from the past, a feeling of a sounding emergence, a flock, a welcoming flock to a space that you've always dreamed of, a space where we go, a space where we love, and a space where we would love to share it, and then wear it. The space of a garment, the space of a water that moves through space and that holds a space through its existence. So fluid to give life to whatever drinks it. Noticing. Noticing new spaces of refreshment. How is it impossible when there's so much energy that is poured into wallowing how is this not wallowing, dancing on the surface of the time that's already passed, and with each motion little by little, like waves in the sand. That create patterns. And recognizing those patterns. Filling the space with something that brings a bliss. And the constant stream flowing through, captured through a device, flowing stream, captured through this device, flowing stream of existence, flying through space, noticing the colors representing themselves, the construct of one person's order does not have the capacity to hold space for each being. And so we create space for ourselves and for each other. The constructs dissolve. They decompose. turn into the rich soil. And deep down they solidify where we found our rocks before. We find more rocks again. And then these rocks they tell the story when we listen. When we actually listen through our entire being, not through a construct, but through our entire being. And so in that, space, in my entire being, I feel cracks, I feel twisted, I feel breath, I feel misted, I feel the patterns of the curtain covering the light. Reflecting in my eyes. I feel like moving this chair. I feel like being stretching my spine. Now, in the silence, let us go into silence as we continue to stitch this. Something has come up. It is a need to adjust what is justified. It is a need to trust the beginning of a choice, and to open into a space where we accept a role as creating our experience. Starting with our breath. we're going to go back through our previous stitches to finish this off. Because we need a new thread now. Something that lifts towards the sun and stretches down towards the core of the earth. That's the feeling being here. And the sound that I hear brings up something else. Sourced, this communication sourced from my throat and extending down into the toes, down into the toes that I feel the rocks, down into the toes that I feel an opening into the realms down below. Do I go? How do I go below? How do I stretch my awareness from my toes into the earth? What is beyond the rocks below? And the layers and the layers of our present, past, now. Forming from irrelevant, forming from a relative. Oh. And then back through, because once we've come back, even once retracted, something might inconvenience your plans. And then you might say, where am I in this construct between the cosmos and the earth? What thoughts are crossing through my consciousness field, my psychic field? And yours? What thoughts resound through interpretation, the interpretation through your dreams? It might not be the apparent experience of your linear projections or of your conscious judgments. Could be something much deeper than that. Exploring subconscious, waters. And where is the value of a subconscious water if it is not relative to one's present moment? And so, and the relevance of that space, what is it reaching for? Is it reaching for your mind? Is it reaching for your vitality? Is it reaching for a new language, a new world to emerge that is beyond this construct of what is nature? And as intimidating as might be to face a dialogue between your nonlinear subconscious mind and then between each of us. What are we bridging? And which realm recognizes a bridge and which is forming from a space of interrelations. This need to constantly come back to centering in my own mind. In the live notations, listening, being heard all the way through. All the way through our pockets. Exercising a muscle of repair, 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 repair. Is that like repairing? Because I don't think I'm necessarily repairing here, because a repair might be like taking two sides of this clipping and then repairing them, bringing them back together. Or would it be like taking a pair, maybe the pairs fell apart and then you put the pairs back together with new pairs, different pairs? Like repairing a substance with another substance that might that might not even constitute its original substance. Okay, water time. And then I'm thinking, like, how I'm sitting here vocalizing these subconscious thoughts. And what does it mean to be doing this in quarantine? Well, it's something that I already wanted to do. I think for me it means that I'm just so in tune, you know? That's what it means. I just could feel it coming. I could feel it in my bones. Years ago. Yeah. It's true though. I just thought to myself, something has to change. And it's gotta be me. And as I change, what is going to change with me? And that is these shirts that are my ancestors that are changing with me, and coming along and reminding me that this started long ago. This started even before our paths crossed, when we found all of these garments. Well, at least the 3 main shirts. We found each other at St. Vincent de Paul in Bremerton. And the colors and of these materials and the ones that the other pieces that are a part of the collection, the colors and textures are reflected of this like interseasonal relationships. And that will be a gift of a complete cycle when we're finished. And what is more are these strings. The strings that kind of like dangle before us. At times, they dangle like vines that have been cut, that have lost grasp of the whatever it is they're climbing, and they're dangling from above and from wherever they may be suspended. And I'm seeing that we can take hold of them as if they were warp of a loom, or we could hey, what if I move it this way? Oh my goodness. What if I just made my stitches by looking through the camera instead of looking like directly at it. Oh, my thumb, my little thumb will be healed soon. One day at a time. Yeah, that doesn't really work for me to like, I am sitting with like the camera in between my face and my hands, and I thought that might give you a better view of what I'm doing. Now it's like on the side, so maybe that'll work. How about that? That's good. And then I just can do this. Oh yeah, da, 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 da. Wow, look at that view. So micro. It's not as macro as it is micro, but it's funny that, like, I guess from my perspective, like, what is macro and what is micro, and thinking about like the macro is this overarching lens, almost like if we looked at the world from outer space, that might be a macro lens of reality, or like the ocean tide patterns or something, and then like zooming in really close to my stitches like this would be like micro, but I guess it's macro because it's just turning the micro into a macro or something like that, maybe. Okay, now we're moving the camera over a little because that's kind of uncomfortable. What's going on here? Okay, that's a little better. Okay, what happened? Thanks for bearing with us as we work with each other to see what's happening, to navigate our reality through the micro and the macro, and which is where do I find myself? Do I find myself in space, or do I find myself in my room, in this room, in your room? Do you find me? Where do you find me? Where do you find you? And then when you look outside, what is it to see through no lens? Through just, if the constructs are like permeating everything all the time, how do we dismantle them? How do we dismantle them within our own minds? Is because, like, sometimes it might seem like, oh, I need to replace, if I'm going to deprogram myself, then I must reprogram myself. And then it makes me think, like, well, is there a place where there is no programming because it just is what it is? And like, what if we see that? What if we see that in our, when we look out the window and not through a lens? Because like trying to sew through watching myself on the camera is really disorienting. Okay, let us release this thread. Excuse me. Okay. You see our lines? Yes? Okay. Now, what is on the other side? Is here. This place where we cut open here. Okay. So I'm not sure what to do about that. My plan was to pull them through to the other side originally, but now I just don't know, because because I want to enclose these. Okay, maybe that's what I can do. We can start enclosing these so that they become tubes, and then what I see is that these become tubes, and that there's these I cut off the hem of this blue material, relatively blue, and then that comes out of the tube, and that's what we're imagining. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna drink some more water. Put some lemon in this water. Now I'm looking at the tree outside my window. You see that tree? Yeah. Okay. So that's right, we're gonna sew And we're going to start with the tube. We're going to make the tube well. Why are we going to make the tube? Because what's coming out of the tube? It's the blue material, right? And so the relatively blue. And so perhaps what comes out of it is we're gonna have 3 tubes, so we might need 3 materials. And are the tubes, or maybe we just need 1 or 2 materials connecting all the tubes while we're building connections. So okay, then I kind of want to keep this part on the hem because I like that, so maybe I'll cut something off the other side. And before I do that, I might as well turn the iron on to get it so that it starts heating up. Okay. Ho, 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 ho. Let's take a look. So here's our sleeve, folded in half, okay, with that opening on the side. And what we want to do is cut a shape. And let's get our scissors. Oh, okay. How are we gonna choose the shape to cut? We're just going to do this like this. Okay. And then we have this, and then the sleeve has some variations happening in the hem, okay? And we're gonna come over to the other side and we're gonna do the same cut. And yeah. Just by kind of mimicking what we did before and following this same line. Okay. And now this sleeve is like that. Okay. Oh. And now we have some material to work with for coming out of the part in the pocket that is no longer a pocket. What's coming out of your pocket? Okay. And so we're going to iron this. Iron this material flat. I'm gonna move the camera further away because I just want to be careful, you know? Okay. The steam. I want to be careful of the steam. Okay. Looks like there's something happening here. Like there's a seam inside of there that's like half French seam, half like not, half like open. And it is not complete now that we've exposed it to life beyond being enclosed inside of a hem. And I just keep thinking about like how I don't see how to restore anything back to how anything was in the past, because each of us are living this life where we're at now, and we have to start with where we're at now. And how do we grow from here? How do we develop from here? And how do we regenerate in a way that is going to bring us into like a vital place of existence? So that's what I'm thinking about. And now thinking about these tubes and what's coming out of these tubes. And I mean, first thing I think about are these leaves. Like leaves coming and spreading out. I want there to be leaves coming through, coming to life. These leaves seem like so textured. It's almost like I want to stuff them or give them a texture somehow. But also thinking about where this is at on the body, and it's like it's kind of near the butt, I think. Wait, no. Is it in the front? Oh, it's kind of in the front, on the front side. But what if there were these like big leaves like dangling? Big long dangle. Badangle. Badangle dongle. Badong. Badonga donga dongle. Boongangle. Yeah? I think that will have some dangling leaves. Dangle, dangle leaves. And so yeah, that's what's gonna happen. And we want 3 leaves to dangle. And so, and they're gonna be enclosed. Are we gonna stuff them or what? I have a whole bag of lint. I could stuff them with lint. Or just leave them. Leave them. Should I just leave them? Any comments? Okay, well, I kind of want to stuff them with lint to give them some sort of substance. That's my thought. Despite what they might say. So with our pieces, let us trace out a leaf, 3 leaves that resemble our dear leaves on the print. Okay, and now another one. Making use of our space together. Leaf, leaves, leave it alone, leave it alone. Will you leave this alone? Will alone? What will be left alone? What did you leave alone? Okay. We have our leaves that will be coming down. And some of them are like partially on the folds, so we're just gonna stitch these right sides together and then flip them around. Okay, I wonder if we can make some more leaves out of the scraps. I bet we can. Yeah, I'm not really sure about like the materials representing symbols, like, because it makes me wonder if they really need to represent something else to become a representation of some sort of narrative, or like if they just need to be seen for what they are, and then what are they? They just are what they are, right? They just exist. We'll just let them be as they are. And you know, just letting them flow through as they reveal themselves, as I see in my mind's eye. Playing the games. Why? Okay, well, sometimes games are broken.
No, I mean like, not even fun. That's what I'm saying, yeah. I'm down for funny broken. It's unplayable broken.
You know, sometimes people play the games. I guess that's what they do. They play the games. So now I got all these little leaves, and we're gonna come over to the sewing machine and we're gonna stitch them with our white thread. Is that what we want, or like a little bit farther away? Okay. Okay. Moving through. Moving through. Moving through. Each leaf has a place where it's going to be flipped. Okay? And that is the same place where the tube will enter or be joined. And instead of starting off with a back tack there, we started off with a stitch length of 0. Okay, now we're going to end with a stitch length of 0 to knot it off and hope that we're able to flip this leaf now through the opening. And I might just like start with like tucking it in on itself. Well, I guess we can do this later when we can get a better perspective of it, because right now we're pretty close up to the needle. and go back to 0. And there we have our another leaf to flip. The only thing I might need to go back and fix is where I think we went off the edge. Right here, we went off the edge. So we're gonna go back and do a little repair. Who listens to your heart from their heart? That is a good one to keep around. La, 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 la. Listen to your heart, to their heart. Na 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 na. Ooh. Okay, coming through to the bigger ones. Starting at 0. Oh. I hope that there's not like, it sounds like there might be some bobbin issue. Is it still going? Yeah, okay, let's stop. We'll take it out. Okay, well, it's not too bad. We just had some bobbin threads stuck looping through our other threads. And as I sit here and sew, I'm feeling thankful that I can put my focus here on something that I feel like deeply matters to me. And yeah, okay. In so many ways, I think that just like go beyond we're gonna take the bobbin out and like rethread it. Seeds. it as an admiration seed, and then I feel like there's not always a direct reciprocation. Sometimes the reciprocation, it comes through through the complex network, cycle back around somehow through other means. And this seam is now twisted. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Okay. Oh right. We were gonna stuff these. But I guess we didn't. Sometimes we just gotta fan our own flames. Fan our own flames. Floon to flowings. Okay, next. Stitching. Next, stitching of our flower leaf. Next, stitching to move through Looks like there was an opening that I didn't see before. Coming back through. On the other side. On the other side. Yo, 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 yo. Where our temples rise, and we find our eyes lies and lies. Okay, coming over here to the ironing board. There's some hair on there. Waiting for the iron to heat up. Now we just want to iron this first flat before we flip it, so that all the seams can have a place of being like a remembrance of what lying flat before they're turned. And I kind of just put my scissors at the tip to kind of like guide through, but without like stabbing through towards the opening. And now we've done it. We flipped. We flipped. Wow. And we have our leaf. And let me get my needle so that we can kind of like pull the point of the leaf out more. Just kind of nudging it in there. And now we try to like roll our seams to the edge so that we don't lose any of our shaping. Before we start to press, starting in one kind of area and then moving around. I've been thinking about how leaves have veins, and then thinking about like how the pattern of this material has like geometric veins. There's one leaf. It's going to be hanging like this from the stem. Okay, on to the next leaf. And I'm going to start by ironing this flat. The seam was twisted, but we're just going to leave it like we're going to leaf it. And perhaps that was what was meant to be with the how we were thinking of stuffing it, and then I was thinking like, oh, we should leaf it, and then we wanted to stuff it, but then we forgot and we left it anyways. We leafed it anyways. So I just want to show you like the openings right here, and so I'm gonna start, and this is the point right here, so I'm kind of just gonna like tuck the leaf inside and then guide it through without like very much pressure, and then, well, it's like we still poked through, but not, hopefully we didn't make like a crazy hole. Hopefully the material can just go back. Okay, and now we can take our pin and kind of like nudge it out some more. Okay. Oh, the leaf, the scarby leaf. Yeah, we're getting kind of low on water. I have this water here. We can use to press. There's our other leaf that will dangle as such. Okay. And we have 4 more. This medium one, and then like 3 small ones. Okay, getting kind of tight in here. Maybe we can use something else that's not gonna poke through it, like this pen. No, that's not gonna work. So close though. I wonder if I can like get it with this needle. 'Cause I can see it. Come along, little leaf tip. Okay. Oh my gosh. That reminds me of something that makes me laugh. Rolling. Rolling the seam to the edges. Sometimes I see people doing things and I'm like, how do they have the energy to do that? And how did they find themselves in that place? Did they even find themselves there, or are they just there? And I found them there, as they are, recognizing each other as we are. Another little leaf. Dangle, dangle. And now we have our 3 baby leaves. Okay. And here through, pushing the tip of the leaf through. Next one. This leaf doesn't really have a tip, it's kind of rounded off at the top. I wonder what happened. Were the bugs munching on it? Okay. Tip coming through. Tip coming through. Oh my gosh. Okay, what I was laughing about, you want me to tell you? I was just laughing about how I was listening to this guru talk about it was describing like our private parts as pleasure tips, and how he was just making fun of how people like to rub their pleasure tips, kind of like talking about how people, how there's a much greater bliss beyond that. And I think that that relates to like our breath and our awareness. And just like our subtle energy frequencies, and cultivating our thoughts in ways that like allow for bliss and ease. And how can we move through a space in our mind that is consensual and in reciprocity? Okay. Now we have 6 leaves, and I see like different. How do they want to be? How do they want to be together? Like that? Like so? Well, this brings us to the 3-hour mark, and so we'd like to thank you for coming in to this plane with us today, and we'd like to thank our ancestors and the spirits and the elements who guided us through, and we'd like to now release the plane of imagination, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.